Hi, Scott here again in the kitchen. This morning we're going to be looking at doing a 3/4 hour pudding, which is really an old-fashioned steamed pudding with golden syrup, served with lashings of whipped cream. So something that's really easy to make, but actually is quite a nice winter pudding. So first off, I actually want to get the little sort of syrup going. So in my bowl here I have a quantity of sugar, 2 tablespoonfuls with some golden syrup. To that we're going to add 1 cup of boiling water. And what we want to do is basically dissolve the golden syrup and the sugar in that water, and that's going to form our syrup that's actually going to go over our 3/4 hour pudding. So to actually make this pudding, you've got to make sure you have a pot that's big enough to hold basically a bowl around about that size. And we sit that into the pot with lots of boiling water around it. Make sure the pot's got a lid that actually fits on top, and then we basically steam it, for a better term, in the pot of boiling water for 3/4 of an hour. So that's where the name comes, 3/4 hour pudding. And it's virtually a sweetened scone dough type mixture. So again, for those that are following the series, you might remember we made a savoury scone earlier on in the piece. So this actually can build on those same sort of skills that you actually learnt, but we can actually turn it into a sweet dish. So I can see that my sugar's dissolved within that quantity of boiling water. So we're just going to sit that aside. So in my container here I have already measured out my flour, baking powder and sugar, and a wee bit of salt. So that goes into my bowl. To that I'm going to rub in, again as I said, with making a very similar to a scone dough mixture, but it's only a small quantity of butter. Just cut it down into nice little slithers so it's easy to actually rub into the mixture. So then we get our hands in. So there's only 1 cup of flour in here, so it's not a huge quantity of flour. 2 tablespoons of sugar, a teaspoon of baking powder, and as I said, a little pinch of salt, and our butter, which is around about 2 tablespoonfuls. And this would make a pudding that would actually easily serve 5 to 6 people. So we want to start rubbing that butter in. Again, we want this mixture to resemble fine breadcrumbs, like our last scone mixture did. And again, we've got milk as our wet ingredient to bring the dough together. So by this stage, if I was doing this from scratch, I would have a pot on the stove already with some water that I've brought to the boil, and so it's ready to actually put the bowl into it. And often I have a jug of boiling water, or just turn on your electric jug, and if you need to add more water down the side, once you've set the bowl in there, you can, because you don't want to have the bowl floating. You want to kind of have it sitting on the bottom, but with enough water coming up the side of the pot. So we've got that dough just about to the right consistency with the butter rubbed in. So a little well on the bottom. We'll take our milk, just stop there. I'm just going to add a tad more flour to that. Just a little bit there. Because I just added a wee bit too much milk. So we'll just add that wee bit of flour to it. Then we're going to basically put the dough into our prepared bowl. So it's going to sit just there on top. Then we take our syrup, and that just gets poured straight on top. And because the baking powder that's in our dough, that's going to make that mixture rise. So I'll just give my hands a bit of a wash. So as I said, you'd make sure you've got a pot that's big enough to hold your bowl. So I'm going to pull out the one I've already got sitting here, and we'll pop that one, just sit that one in there. And while that dough's sitting there, or that pudding, we're just going to whip a wee bit of cream to serve that with it. Now you don't need to add any sugar to the cream, because our cream is going to just give us a nice finish, but also there's lots of sugar in the golden syrup and the sugar in the pudding. So we'll just give this a quick beat, and then we can show you how we present it. Now you could actually add some dried fruit to the mixture if you wanted to, as into the pudding mixture. And we don't want to over whip the cream, we just want to whip it. So we can get out a nice little service bowl. And we'll take a nice generous dollop of our 3/4 hour pudding. And you can hopefully see how it soaks up the syrup. So we'll just get a wee bit more of that syrup. Pour that over the top, and then a good dollop of our cream. So there you have it, our 3/4 hour steamed pudding with that lashings of cream that's going to melt really nicely into it.